Hello, everyone. As I reflect again on Psalm 125, especially verse 1, which says that those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, firm, unmovable, abiding forever, I realize that this truth would not be complete without considering the life of Job. I'm going to talk about the Shunammite woman, King Hezekiah, but first about Job. Because if there is anyone in scripture who truly embodied what it means to stand firm in the midst of overwhelming trials, it is Job. Job went through a kind of suffering that is difficult to comprehend. He lost his children, he lost his possessions, he lost his health. And all of this did not happen over a long period of time. It, it happened almost all at once. While one tragic report was still being delivered, another followed. Before he could process one loss, another loss came. It was wave after wave of devastation. Under such circumstances, it would be natural for anyone to break, to lose hope, uh, or even turn against God. And yet, in the midst of all this, Job did something remarkable. The Bible records in Job 1:21 through 22 that after everything he lost, Job said, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And then it adds, in all this, Job did not sin nor charge God with wrong. Job felt pain, he asked questions, he wrestled with understanding with his situation, and at one point he even cursed the day he was born. But despite all that, there was one thing he never did. He never turned away from God. He never cursed God. He never abandoned his faith. He never let go of his trust. In Job 13:15, Job said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." That statement is not just a declaration, it is a revelation of deep, unshakable faith. To slay means to kill, to bring to an end. Yet Job was saying, even if everything in my life seems to collapse, even if I do not understand what God is doing, my trust in him will not be shaken. When Job said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him," he was not speaking lightly. He was speaking as a man who had already lost almost everything. He had lost his children, he had lost his wealth, everything he had built was gone. He had lost his health, his body was afflicted and broken. At that point, the only thing he seemed to have left was his life. So when Job made that statement, it was as though he was saying, "I have lost everything else, and even if it gets to the point where I lose my life, I will still trust in him." This is not ordinary faith. This is not the kind of faith that is dependent on outcomes. This is a faith that has gone beyond circumstances. Job was essentially declaring, no matter how difficult life becomes, and even if the worst should happen, my trust in God will remain unchanged. In other words, no situation could redefine who God was to him. His trust was not built on what God had given him. His trust was not sustained by comfort or prosperity. His trust was anchored in his knowledge of God and love for God. So even when everything around him collapsed, his foundation did not collapse. This is why his statement carries such weight. Job was not just saying he would endure suffering, he was saying that nothing in this life, not even death itself, could make him turn his back on God. It was a declaration of lifelong commitment. It was as though he was saying, this matter of trusting God is settled. It is not temporary. It is not conditional. It is not dependent on how things turn out. Even if I am on my dying bed, I will still trust him. That is what it means to be like Mount Zion. Mount Zion is not moved by storms, it is not shaken by winds, it remains. And Job remained. His circumstances changed drastically, but his position towards God did not change. His world fell apart, but his trust in God stood firm. Job's life shows us that true faith is not proven when everything is going well, it is revealed when everything is falling apart, and yet the heart still says, "I will trust him." And that is the kind of faith that cannot be shaken, even by death itself. Even when his wife, overwhelmed by the situation, said to him, "Curse God and die," Job refused. Instead, he held on to his integrity. This shows us something very important. True faith is not proven when everything is going well. True faith is revealed when everything is falling apart and you still choose to trust God, you still choose to obey Him, you still choose to live for Him. Job's life gives us a living picture of Psalm 125 verse 1. To trust in the Lord is not merely to stand when life is stable, it is to remain standing when everything else is collapsing. It is to say, just like Job, even in the darkest moments, though He slay me, yet will I trust Him. God bless you. Watch out for part 3.